Hello everyone and welcome back to another Hard Count podcast, and today we're going to be talking about a team that has surprised many people this season, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 11-0, but despite this, there's still many people doubting the Steelers. They've been saying they're not as good as their record shows, saying that they're not a Super Bowl team. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why I think that is ridiculous and why the Steelers, despite what many might think, are in fact a Super Bowl team. Real quick, before we get into the video, I just want to remind you guys to hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. We've been getting a lot of subscribers recently, and I would love to keep it up. So thank you guys for that. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. The Pittsburgh Steelers, what a story they've been this season. Lost Big Ben to an injury for all of last season, barely missed the playoffs with Mason Rudolph under center. Came into this year hoping to make the playoffs, and they weren't even favored to win their own division. But look where they are now, sitting atop the NFL with a perfect 11-0 record, handily winning their division. And you would think that would be enough, right? You would think that the Steelers would finally be getting their due respect. But somehow, they're still being doubted. Some people still do not believe that this team is even a Super Bowl team.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you need to grow up. This is not a Super Bowl team. There it is. Go cry in your terrible towels. This is not a Super Bowl team.
So that got me thinking. Are the Steelers really a Super Bowl team? And I'm going to answer that for you right now. My answer is yes. Of course they're a Super Bowl team. And if you think anything but that, then continue listening because I'm here to tell you why you're wrong. First, I'm going to go over what the Steelers do so well, what makes them an 11-0 team. And then after that, I'm going to tell you why you are wrong in saying that they are not a Super Bowl team. So let's start off with the first thing. Why are the Steelers so good? What makes them a Super Bowl team in the first place? What has gotten them to be 11-0, the top team in the NFL? Well, let me start with their defense. We all know it's great. I mean, that's the reason they were 8-8 last season with Mason Rudolph under center. If the defense wasn't a thing, they could have been 0-16. They've got a very, very good defense. They have the best pass rush in the NFL. TJ Watt, Bud Dupree, who unfortunately we saw go down with a season-ending injury this past week against the Ravens. They've got Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward. They simply out-physical you. They get in the quarterback's face all game long. And this pass rush really changes everything the opposing offense must do. It makes everything that opposing offense wants to do much harder as well. So that pass rush is huge for that defense, and it's really the cornerstone because the Steelers, while they have a good secondary, is not spectacular, but a good pass rush makes up for that. It makes that good secondary look great because they're after the quarterback, forcing them to make bad decisions. And that is why this defense is so good, because of that pass rush and the ability to get after the quarterback. Not to mention they've got Mike Tomlin, arguably the second best defensive coach in the NFL today. So, I think we can all agree that the defense is championship caliber. I've never seen anyone question that. I think it's the best defense in the NFL. So the Steelers already have that. They've got the best defense in the NFL. It's a big advantage. Now, what about the offense? And I think this is where a lot of the questions come in about the Steelers. And this offense has been the biggest surprise to me for the Steelers this year. And I think it is the biggest reason they've taken this jump into the next tier of teams in the NFL. It's because of this offense. No, it's not Kansas City. No, it's not Seattle. But it's been extremely solid. I mean, the entire concept is to utilize their depth at receiver, which is almost unparalleled in the NFL. Take advantage of that. Use 4 or 5 wide out sets and, simple but extremely difficult to cover arrays of underneath routes, which each receiver plays really well in this scheme. And it's very difficult to guard as well. A lot of people say that Juju is overrated, but in my opinion, he's exactly what the Steelers team needs. He's a gritty guy. He's great underneath. He hangs onto the ball, picks up those extra couple yards. That's what Juju is. He adds a lot to this offense. Then they got Claypool in the draft. Claypool is one of the better young receivers in the NFL right now. He's been spectacular for them. And then Deontay Johnson is super underrated. As I said, this offense is predicated on using these guys underneath, getting the ball out of Big Ben's hands as quickly as possible. And this has been very effective this season. You know, they combine that with this solid rushing attack with Benny Snell and James Conner, and you get a good offense. As I said, it's not Kansas City, it's not Seattle, it's not flashy, but it's good. It gets the job done, and to me, that makes it a championship caliber offense. So we look at it, as I said, the defense is championship caliber and the offense is championship caliber. Now, I know many people agree with me that they're a good team, and I mean, how could you not? They're 11-0. They're a good team. Now, what about Super Bowl contenders? I just talked about why they were good, but let me just answer some of the questions you guys might have about the Steelers. Some of the reasons that I've heard as to why they're not a Super Bowl team. And, you know, the first reason that I've heard most often is that they're just simply overrated. And, you know, I'm not saying that they're the greatest team of all time. Nobody's saying that. To me, I think the Steelers at this point are an underappreciated, underrated team. People like to bring up their cakewalk schedule, but at the end of the day, the Steelers are 11-0. They've played without a bye week. Week in, week out, they've gotten the job done, and that's what's going to win you a Super Bowl, doing just that. And secondly, you know, let's not act like the Steelers haven't been tested. They have been tested. You know, let's stop acting like the Steelers have just played the Jets every single week of the season. They've had to play the Titans, who were hot, coming off a big win over the Bills and a big win over the Texans. They had to play the Ravens in division matchup. Ravens are off a bye, go into Baltimore, and they did. They went in there and outplayed a fully healthy Baltimore team. You know, they haven't had some crazy gauntlet like you want them to have, but they've been given tests this season, and they've passed those tests. It hasn't been the most flashy, but that is Steelers football. Punch you in the mouth, out physical your guys, and that is what they have done all year long. You can complain all you want about their schedule, but the reality of it is, whenever they've been given tests, they've passed those tests, and that is good enough for me to believe in them as a true contender. So that's why I think that the idea that this cakewalk schedule is the reason that the Steelers can't win the Super Bowl is ridiculous. And then the second thing people are going to say about the Steelers team is that their offense is not a championship caliber offense. And they're going to say this for two reasons. The first being, you know, they can't keep up with Kansas City, Seattle, some of the better offenses in the league in terms of big plays down the field. They're not a big play offense. And I will give them some credit. This is true to some extent. They don't have that big play threat like a Kansas City or Seattle or even Green Bay do. And sure, it's good to be able to strike at any moment, have that big play just waiting to happen. But to me, it's ridiculous to say this is not a championship offense because they don't have a big play threat. First of all, I don't hear anyone throwing the idea that the Saints are not Super Bowl contenders this year out there, even though they run an offense that's even more limited when it comes to throwing the ball down the field. And second of all, the Steelers can get the ball down the field. It might not be at an elite level, but several times we've seen this offense be able to push the ball down the field. They've gotten young guys like Chase Claypool open down the field. And, you know, so this criticism that they're not a big play team, they can't keep up with the better offenses in the league because they can't move the ball down the field, one, to me, is not something that's to be overly concerned about. And two, I don't even think it's really that true. So, you know, let me give you a comparison here. And I think this is a good comparison. It's a comparison to a team we saw just 1 year ago go to the Super Bowl, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. I didn't see anyone saying that they were not a Super Bowl team. I mean, just look at the similarities. Both teams are predicated on an underneath short passing game, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly, establishing the run on offense. Then on defense, pushing you around at the line, getting pressure on the quarterback, playing solid in the secondary. Both of these teams are very similar, and I'm taking Big Ben over Jimmy Garoppolo any day of the week. So that point right there leads me perfectly into the second thing that I've heard about this offense and why they can't win a Super Bowl. Because Big Ben is not an elite quarterback, is what I've heard. And that's the reason they can't win a Super Bowl. And with this one, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. You know, it's great to have a guy like Mahomes or Wilson in the playoffs. Good quarterbacks run this league. But I have two things to say about this. First of all, the reality of today's NFL is that you don't necessarily need an elite quarterback to win a Super Bowl. This has been proven the past couple of years. Jared Goff of the Rams, just 2 years ago, not an elite quarterback, backed by a very effective offensive system and a good defense, made the Super Bowl. The following year, as I talked about, Jimmy Garoppolo made the Super Bowl. Not an elite quarterback, backed by a very good offensive system and a good defense. They made the Super Bowl. My point being, you don't need an elite quarterback to win in today's NFL. Surroundings are ultimately what matters the very most. And as I talked about, the Steelers have that effective offensive system. They have that very good defense. They're built like a Super Bowl team, and Super Bowl teams that we've seen in the past couple of years as well. And then the other thing about Big Ben that I want to say is Big Ben is a guy that I trust in the playoffs. He's a quarterback that I want to have on my team. I don't think that, some people say go a little too far. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback right now, but he has been very good this year. He's been good for this offense. He's been good getting the ball out of his hands quickly, keeping the ball out of harm's way, and making the plays that need to be made. And that's what the Steelers offense has been predicated on all year long. He has been good this year. Not top 10, but I trust him in the Steelers offense in the playoffs. That he has so much playoff experience in his career. He's been to the playoffs almost every year of his career, and he brings so much experience to the table. So Big Ben, although he's not Mahomes or Wilson or Rodgers, he's a guy that I trust. And in today's NFL, that means a lot in a playoff quarterback. So what I'm saying here is the NFL community needs to wake up. The Steelers are having a fantastic season this year. They deserve to be 11-0. They've had their backs up against the wall. They've delivered. They've knocked down every single team that has come in their way. They have an elite defense with a well-run offense that I trust. They have the coach of the year. The Pittsburgh Steelers are most definitely a Super Bowl team. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you thought down below in the comments. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe as always. And until next time, peace.